When meeting the new housemaid, the millionaire was paralyzed when he saw her necklace, the same one his daughter wore when she disappeared many years ago. Samantha adjusted her bag on her shoulder and took one last look at the orphanage that had been her home for 19 years. The large red brick building held memories of childhood and moments of loneliness, but also of friendship and resilience. With a deep sigh, she turned her back and walked towards the gate, her heart racing with a mix of anxiety and excitement for what was to come. On that sunny day, Samantha was about to embark on a new journey. With the help of the orphanage's director, she had secured a job as a housekeeper at the mansion of Raul Jimenez, a renowned real estate mogul. The opportunity seemed like a distant dream, but now it was within her reach. Upon arriving at the imposing mansion, Samantha was greeted by Michael, the butler who had served the Jimenez family for over 30 years. His stern look and rigid posture intimidated Samantha, but she kept her head held high, determined to prove her worth. Michael formally and coldly showed her around the mansion, his words tinged with distrust. "I hope you understand the responsibility this job entails," said Michael as they walked through the elegant corridors. "The Jimenez family is very demanding and does not tolerate mistakes." Samantha nodded, trying not to show her apprehension. "I understand, Mr. Michael. I will do my best." The first days were challenging. Michael never missed an opportunity to criticize her work, pointing out any minor mistake. Samantha felt the pressure increase with each disapproving look from the butler, but she remained undeterred. Her determination was stronger than any criticism. Samantha woke up every day before sunrise, starting her tasks with admirable diligence. She cleaned the rooms, took care of the common areas, and kept the kitchen spotless. Despite Michael's constant criticisms, she dedicated herself to learning and improving, absorbing every detail about how to maintain the mansion in perfect condition. On a particularly difficult morning, Samantha was cleaning the chandeliers in the living room when Michael approached. "You left a stain on the dining table last night," he said in a harsh tone. "This is unacceptable." Samantha swallowed hard, feeling the weight of Michael's words. "I'm sorry, Mr. Michael. I'll be more careful." Michael sighed, still distrustful. "We'll see. Remember, this job requires perfection." Despite the difficulties, Samantha found moments of peace while working. The mansion's garden in particular was a refuge where she could breathe and reflect. She would sit for a few minutes during her breaks, admiring the flowers and listening to the birds sing. It was there that she recharged her energy and reminded herself of the reason she was there, to build a better life for herself. That night, after a long day of work, Samantha lay on the small bed in her room at the mansion, exhausted but satisfied with her progress. Although Michael remained a critical and demanding presence, she knew she was learning and growing every day. Determined to prove her worth, she closed her eyes, ready to face the challenges of the next day. The sun had barely risen above the horizon when Samantha was already up, starting another day of work at the Jimenez mansion. Her goal was simple: to show that she could perform her duties with excellence, even in the face of Michael's constant criticism. The kitchen, one of her favorite places to work, was her refuge that morning. She cleaned the surfaces carefully, losing herself in thoughts about her future. As Samantha was absorbed in her tasks, she didn't notice the firm, determined footsteps approaching. Raul Jimenez, the patriarch of the family, had just returned from a long business trip. Exhaustion was etched on his face, but there was something deeper in his eyes, a silent melancholy, a weight he had carried in his heart since his daughter's disappearance. Raul entered the kitchen in search of a glass of water, but what he found left him momentarily paralyzed. Samantha was facing away, focused on her work, but the heart-shaped necklace hanging around her neck immediately caught Raul's attention. It was impossible not to recognize that necklace. It was identical to the one his daughter was wearing the day she disappeared. "Excuse me," Raoul said, trying to keep his voice steady, but feeling a lump in his throat. Samantha turned quickly, surprised by the presence of the master of the house. "Good morning, Mr. Jimenez," she responded, trying to hide her nervousness. Raoul took a few steps towards her, his eyes fixed on the necklace. "That necklace? It's very beautiful. Have you had it for a long time?" Samantha touched the necklace instinctively, as she always did when she was nervous. "Yes, sir. I've had it for as long as I can remember. I grew up with it. This necklace has always been present in my life. It's the only memory I have of my past." Raoul felt a wave of conflicting emotions. The similarity of the necklace to his lost daughters could not be a coincidence. He needed to find out more about Samantha, about her past, and how that necklace had come to her. "Interesting," Raoul said, masking the intensity of his thoughts. "Well, I hope you're adjusting well to working here." "I'm doing my best, Mr. Jimenez," Samantha replied, relieved to have a friendly conversation, different from her interactions with Michael. Raoul nodded and headed to the fridge to get the water he had initially sought. But in his mind, a whirlwind of thoughts was forming. He needed to investigate more about that young woman and the story behind that necklace. Later that day, Raoul entered his office and made a call to an old friend, the owner of a respected detective agency. He explained the situation briefly, requesting a detailed investigation into Samantha's past. Something inside him said that this young woman might be connected to his past in a way he never imagined. Meanwhile, Samantha continued her routine, unaware of the storm that was about to form around her. The necklace around her neck, a symbol of her mysterious past, now became the center of a new investigation that could change her life forever. Raoul was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Raoul sat in his leather chair in the office, the phone still in his hand. The conversation with his detective friend, Marcelo, had been brief, but full of implications. Marcelo had promised to start the investigation immediately and ensure that all leads were pursued with the utmost rigor. Raoul knew that no stone could be left unturned when it came to discovering the truth about Samantha. Meanwhile, Samantha continued with her daily tasks, unaware of the investigation now revolving around her life. She followed her routine meticulously, determined to prove her worth, despite Michael's constant criticisms. That night, after the initial conversation with Marcelo, Raoul decided he couldn't wait any longer. He needed answers and knew that only a thorough investigation could provide them. He picked up the phone and called Marcelo again, formalizing the detective's hire. "Marcelo, I want you and your team to do whatever it takes to uncover everything about Samantha's past. Spare no effort or resources. We need answers quickly," Raoul said firmly. "Don't worry, Raoul. We'll start immediately. I'll keep you informed of any progress," Marcelo replied, understanding the urgency and importance of the request. A few days later, Marcelo contacted Raoul to arrange a meeting. The urgency in his voice made Raoul realize that something significant had been discovered. They met in a discreet cafe downtown, away from prying eyes. "Raoul, my team has made significant progress," Marcelo said without wasting time. "Samantha was found in a park 17 years ago when she was about 2 years old. She was taken to an orphanage shortly after, where she grew up until she recently left." Raoul listened attentively, feeling his heart race. "And the necklace? Is there any clue about who might have left her there?" Marcelo shook his head. "Not yet, but we're checking all available records and interviewing anyone who might remember something. The fact is, someone left her in the park with that necklace, and it doesn't seem to have been an accident." Raoul took a deep breath, absorbing the information. "So, Samantha has been living without knowing anything about her past, without any idea who her parents are. Exactly. The orphanage had no additional information about her, just that she was found in the park with the necklace. We're trying to track down possible witnesses or any clue of who might have left her there. The thought of his lost daughter had never been so present in Raoul's mind. Every detail of the investigation seemed to bring him closer to a revelation he both feared and longed for. He wondered how many times he had come close to the truth without knowing. Keep investigating, Marcelo. I need all the answers possible. If Samantha is indeed my daughter, I can't let this opportunity slip away. Raoul said, his determination palpable. Marcelo nodded, understanding the urgency and importance of the request. We'll do our best, Raoul. I'll keep you informed of any progress. Back at the mansion, Raoul tried to remain calm, but the anxiety was evident. He watched Samantha from a distance, imagining how her life could change drastically soon. Every move she made, every gesture, seemed to echo memories of his lost daughter. One afternoon, while Samantha was cleaning the library, Raoul entered unexpectedly. She looked at him, surprised, but smiled timidly. "Can I help you with something, Mr. Jimenez?" Raoul hesitated for a moment. "No, I just wanted to see how your work is going. Are you adjusting well?" "Yes, sir. I'm learning a lot, and I appreciate the opportunity," Samantha replied sincerely. Raoul observed the necklace gleaming in the library's light, feeling a tightness in his chest. "Keep it up, Samantha. You're doing a good job." As Raoul left, Samantha felt a strange sense that something deeper was happening. The days dragged on slowly for Raoul since the investigation into Samantha began. Each discovery by the detective Marcelo seemed to bring him closer to a truth he both longed for and feared. When Marcelo finally called to schedule an urgent meeting, Raoul knew that the moment of revelation had arrived. Marcelo arrived at the Jimenez mansion with a thick envelope in hand. He was immediately led to Raoul's office, where the businessman waited anxiously. "Raoul, we've gathered all the available information. There is no doubt that Samantha was found in a park 17 years ago and taken to an orphanage. All records confirm this story. The necklace she wears is the only link to her past," said Marcelo, handing the envelope to Raoul. Raoul opened the envelope with trembling hands, meticulously flipping through the documents. Each detail matched the few pieces of information he had about his daughter's disappearance. He knew he needed to talk to Samantha immediately. "Thank you, Marcelo. Now I need to speak with her," Raoul said, rising from his chair. Samantha was in the kitchen, finishing arranging the utensils, when Michael called her to Raoul's office. Nervous, she made her way to the room, unsure of what to expect. Entering the office, she found Raoul sitting behind his desk with a serious but kind look. He invited her to sit across from him. "Samantha, I need to talk to you about something very important," Raoul began, trying to keep his voice steady. "Have you ever wondered about your past, about who your parents are?" Samantha nodded, curiosity and anxiety shining in her eyes. "Yes, sir. I've always wanted to know, but I've never had any clue beyond this necklace." Raoul took a deep breath before continuing. "That necklace, it belonged to my daughter, who disappeared 17 years ago. The information we have about you matches her disappearance. I think there is a chance you could be my daughter." Samantha sat in silence, trying to process what she had just heard. The idea was both thrilling and frightening. "Are you saying that I might be your daughter?" "Yes, Samantha, but we need to be sure. I'd like us to take a DNA test to confirm paternity. That will give us a definitive answer." Samantha felt a mix of emotions: hope, fear, incredulity. "Of course, sir. I'll take the test." Raoul smiled, relieved by her positive response. "Very well. I'll arrange everything. I want you to know that, regardless of the result, you are very important to us here." The next day, Raoul and Samantha went to a specialized laboratory to take the DNA test. The procedure was quick, but the wait for the result felt like an eternity. During those days, Raoul tried to maintain normalcy at the mansion, but the tension was palpable. As they waited for the results, Raoul watched Samantha with a mix of hope and apprehension. He saw in her traits of his lost daughter and couldn't shake the idea that fate had finally brought them back together. Samantha, on the other hand, felt torn. The possibility of discovering her true origins was both exciting and terrifying. She wondered how her life would change if Raoul was indeed her father, and how it would alter everything around her. At the Gimenez mansion, the atmosphere was filled with expectation. Michael observed everything from a distance, wary of the changes this might bring. He knew that confirming Samantha's paternity could drastically alter the household dynamics and possibly threaten his position. The following days were filled with pure anxiety for everyone. Raoul and Samantha tried to keep to their routine, but the wait for the DNA test result hung over them like a shadow. Every phone call, every knock on the door made Raoul's heart race. Finally, the day of revelation arrived. The laboratory called to inform them that the results were ready. Raoul and Samantha went together to pick up the envelope containing the answer to the question that haunted them. Back at the mansion, in Raoul's office, they opened the envelope with trembling hands but had not yet read the result. The moment of truth was about to come, and they both knew that regardless of what was written on that paper, their lives would never be the same again. Raoul and Samantha sat across from each other at the desk in the office, the envelope containing the DNA test results between them. Raoul's hands trembled as he held the envelope, and Samantha could feel the tension in the air. The moment of truth had arrived. "Let's open it together," Raoul said, his voice trembling but full of determination. Samantha nodded, trying to contain the anxiety bubbling within her. With a careful gesture, Raoul opened the envelope and pulled out the document. His eyes scanned the printed words, and he felt the world stop for a moment. "Samantha," Raoul began, his voice choked with emotion, "the result is positive. I am your father." For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Samantha looked at Raoul, trying to comprehend the magnitude of that revelation. Tears began to stream down her face as she tried to find the words. "You are my daughter," Raoul repeated, his voice now overcome with emotion. He opened his arms, and Samantha ran to him, embracing him tightly. Both were crying, a mix of relief and joy enveloping them. "I finally found my family," Samantha whispered, feeling complete for the first time in her life. Raoul held Samantha's face in his hands, his eyes full of tears. "We have so much time to make up for, but I promise we will do it together." The news quickly spread throughout the mansion, and Margarita, Raoul's wife, was the next to be informed. When Raoul told her about the confirmation, Margarita was momentarily paralyzed before bursting into tears of happiness. "My daughter, our daughter," Margarita said, running to embrace Samantha. "I can't believe we finally found you." Margarita's hug was warm and welcoming, filling a void Samantha had always felt. She now had a mother, someone who loved her deeply and was there to embrace her with an open heart. Joy filled the Gimenez mansion. The staff, who had watched the changes with curiosity and apprehension, now joined in the family's celebration. Michael, the butler, observed from a distance, trying to conceal his true feelings about the situation. Samantha began to integrate more deeply into the Gimenez family life. Raoul and Margarita included her in all aspects of family life, from intimate dinners to discussions about the family business. The transition was not easy for Samantha, but the unconditional support of her parents made everything more bearable. Raoul, for his part, was determined to teach Samantha everything he knew about the family business. He knew it would be a challenge, but he also believed Samantha had the strength and determination needed to excel. "I want you to know, Samantha," Raoul said during one of their conversations, "that I am here to support you every step of the way. You are part of this family, and together we will build a bright future." Samantha nodded, feeling grateful and motivated. She knew the road ahead would be full of challenges, but she was also eager to learn and grow. With Raoul and Margarita by her side, she felt ready to face any obstacle. Meanwhile, Michael watched everything with growing unease. He knew that Samantha's presence would change many things in the Jimenez family dynamics and consequently in his own position in the house. His discontent began to grow, and he couldn't help but feel a pang of envy and fear about the future. The weeks following the revelation were a whirlwind of emotions and new routines for Samantha. She slowly adapted to life as a member of the Jimenez family, participating in daily activities and learning about the family business. The mansion, once a place of work, now transformed into a true home for her. One evening, during a quiet dinner, Raoul and Samantha were talking about her childhood. Margarita had already retired for the night, leaving father and daughter to deepen their bond. "Samantha, there's something I've always wanted to know," Raoul began, setting his fork aside. "Do you remember anything about the day you were found? Any memory that might help us understand better what happened?" Samantha furrowed her brow, trying to access the vague and fragmented memories of her early childhood. "I was very young, but there's something I never forgot," she said slowly. "I remember a man. He took me to the park. I can't see his face clearly, but I remember he was nervous. He told me to stay there, that someone would come to get me." Raoul was thoughtful, his heart aching at the thought of his young daughter being left alone in a park. "This man, do you remember anything else about him? Any characteristic? Something that might help us identify him?" Samantha shook her head. "Not much, just that he was nervous and seemed to be in a hurry. I think he was wearing a hat, but it's all very blurry." Raoul held Samantha's hand, determination forming in his eyes. "That's something, at least. We will find out who he is and what really happened. I'll reach out to Detective Marcello again and ask him to dig deeper." The next day, Raoul contacted Marcello, explaining the new information Samantha had revealed. Marcello, always meticulous, assured Raoul that he would dedicate all necessary resources to follow this new lead. "I'll reopen the investigation with a focus on this description, Raoul. We'll check records, witnesses, and anyone who might remember something about that day in the park," Marcello said, noting down all the details Raoul shared. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Samantha felt a mix of relief and anxiety. Relief for finally sharing her memories and having Raoul's support, but also anxiety about what these investigations might uncover. Michael watched the developments with growing concern, his thoughts clouded with uncertainties about his future in the household. Marcello's investigation began to yield results quickly. He interviewed former orphanage employees and residents near the park where Samantha was found. Slowly, fragments of information started to come together, forming a clearer but still incomplete picture. One afternoon, Raoul received a call from Marcello. "Raoul, I have some news. I found a witness who remembers a man leaving a child in the park around that time. She couldn't see many details, but confirmed he was wearing a hat and seemed to be in a hurry." Raoul felt a mix of hope and unease. "That's good, Marcello. Keep investigating. We need to know who he was and why he left my daughter there." Marcello agreed and promised to continue following all leads. Meanwhile, Raoul decided it was time to share these updates with Samantha. He called her to the office, and together they reviewed the new findings. "We're making progress, Samantha. Every small detail brings us closer to the truth," Raoul said, holding her hand tenderly. "We will find out who did this and why. You deserve to know the whole truth." Samantha felt a wave of gratitude and determination. "Thank you, Dad. I know we will discover the truth together." As the investigation continued, Samantha and Raul prepared to face any revelation that might arise. United in their quest for the truth, they knew that regardless of what they discovered, they would face it together, further strengthening the bond they now shared. As the investigation continued, the dynamics at the Jimenez mansion began to change. Samantha, now recognized as Raul's legitimate daughter, was becoming more integrated into family life and business. Margarita welcomed her with open arms, and Samantha's presence brought a new joy to the household. However, not everyone shared this enthusiasm. Michael, the longtime butler, began to show signs of discontent. His previously impassive expression now revealed constant tension. He watched Samantha with a mix of distrust and resentment. With every new responsibility she took on in the family business, Michael's unease grew. One day, Raul noticed Michael's change in behavior. The butler was more curt and impatient, especially with Samantha. Raul decided it was time for an honest conversation. "Michael, can we talk?" Raul called the butler to his office. Michael entered, maintaining his rigid posture. "Yes, Mr. Jimenez. How can I help you?" Raul observed him for a moment before speaking. "I've noticed you've been different since Samantha joined us. I'd like to know if something is bothering you." Michael hesitated, but his expression hardened. "Mr. Jimenez, I have served this family for over 30 years. I've always considered my loyalty unquestionable. But with Samantha's arrival, it feels like everything has changed." Raul frowned. "Michael, Samantha is my daughter. She has every right to be here and to be part of the family business. If there's something more that's bothering you, I need you to be honest with me." Michael shook his head, avoiding Raul's gaze. "Nothing, sir. I'm just adjusting to the changes." Raul was not entirely convinced, but decided not to press further at that moment. However, he knew that something deeper was at play. Michael had always been a pillar of trust, but his recent attitude raised suspicions. Meanwhile, Marcelo continued his investigation. He was determined to uncover any connection between the man who left Samantha in the park and anyone else who might have been involved. Raul kept in frequent contact with the detective, anxiously awaiting new information. The tension at the Jimenez mansion was palpable. Michael, feeling his position threatened, began to act more erratically. Small mistakes in his daily tasks, biting comments and furtive glances, became frequent. Samantha, although aware of the butler's behavior, remained focused on her responsibilities, determined not to let anything disrupt her new life. Raul knew that the truth about Samantha's past was drawing closer. He also knew he needed to be vigilant for any signs of betrayal within his own home. Michael's true face was beginning to reveal itself, and Raul was determined to protect his family no matter the cost. After a few weeks of investigations, Marcelo called Raul with an urgent voice. "Raul, we need to meet. I discovered something important about the man who left Samantha in the park." Raul felt a chill down his spine. "I'm on my way, Marcelo." In the detective's office, Marcelo presented a detailed dossier. "Raul, my investigations led to a disturbing discovery. The man who left Samantha in the park 17 years ago was none other than Michael, the butler." Raul was stunned. "Michael? That's unbelievable. Do you have proof of this?" Marcelo nodded and handed Raul a series of documents and photographs. Witnesses finally confirmed the man's identity, and old records show suspicious connections between Michael and events surrounding your daughter's disappearance. Back at the mansion, Raul felt the anger and betrayal burning inside him. He called Michael to the office, holding the evidence in his trembling hands. "Michael, we need to talk. Now," Raul said, his voice firm. Michael entered, maintaining a facade of calm, but Raul could see the nervousness in his eyes. "Yes, Mr. Jimenez. How can I help?" Raul threw the evidence on the table between them. "Explain this, Michael. Explain how you could do this to my family." Michael looked at the documents, and the color drained from his face. "Mr. Jimenez, I can explain." "There is no explanation that justifies what you did," Raoul shouted, his anger overflowing. "You took my daughter, left her alone in a park. Why?" Michael finally broke down, his defenses crumbling. I was desperate. When I found out your daughter was born, I feared losing my place here. I always thought that without heirs, you would leave everything to me. I did something terrible, and I regret it every day." Raoul looked at Michael, pain and fury mixed on his face. "You destroyed our lives, Michael. I trusted you." "Please forgive me, Mr. Raoul. I didn't mean any harm," said Michael. Raoul, with a mix of emotions knowing everything, decided to call his lawyer so they could go to a police station together. Raoul and his lawyer, Dr. Alvarenga, gathered all the evidence against Michael and headed to the police station. The weight of the recent revelations was still fresh in their minds, but Raoul knew he couldn't delay the search for justice any longer. At the police station, they were received by Chief Inspector Moreira, a stern but fair-looking man. Dr. Alvarenga presented the documents and evidence incriminating Michael. "Inspector Moreira, we have compelling evidence that Michael, the Jimenez family's butler, was responsible for the disappearance of Mr. Raoul's daughter 17 years ago," Dr. Alvarenga explained, handing the dossier to the inspector. The inspector flipped through the documents, examining photos, testimonies, and records. His expression hardened as he grasped the gravity of the case. "These are very serious accusations. We will proceed with the arrest immediately. I need Mr. Jimenez to be ready to formalize the complaint." "I'm ready to do whatever it takes," Raoul replied, his voice unshakable. Back at the mansion, the tension was palpable. Michael was visibly nervous, aware that something was about to happen. When the police arrived, he tried to maintain his composure, but his eyes betrayed growing fear. "Mr. Michael, you are under arrest for the kidnapping of Mr. Jimenez's daughter," Inspector Moreira announced. "You have the right to remain silent, but anything you say can and will be used against you in court." Michael did not resist the arrest. The handcuffs on his wrists seemed to seal his fate. As he was led to the patrol car, he looked at Raoul with eyes full of remorse and fear. "Raoul, I'm so sorry," Michael stammered. "I thought I was protecting my future, but I ended up destroying yours. I did it out of fear of losing my place here, my livelihood. When your daughter was born, I knew everything would change. I acted out of desperation, not malice." Raoul remained firm, though Michael's words touched a part of his compassion. "Michael, your desperation doesn't justify what you did. You destroyed our lives. Now justice will be served." At the police station, Michael was formally interrogated and confessed to his crimes in detail, explaining his motivations and the fear that led him to act so cruelly. His confessions were recorded, and he was sent to prison, where he would await trial. Raoul returned home, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. The betrayal of someone he deeply trusted left a painful scar, but there was also a sense of justice being restored. Samantha, upon hearing of Michael's arrest, felt a mix of emotions. The truth had finally come to light, but the journey had been filled with pain and bitter revelations. That night, Raoul, Margarita, and Samantha gathered in the living room, embracing and finding comfort in each other's presence. The Jimenez mansion, which had long harbored secrets and betrayals, was now beginning to transform into a true home, where truth and love prevailed. "We will move forward," Raoul said, looking at his wife and daughter. "Together, as a family. Nothing will separate us anymore." Michael's arrest marked the end of a dark chapter in the life of the Jimenez family. With the truth finally revealed and justice being served, Raoul, Margarita, and Samantha were determined to move forward and make up for lost time. The atmosphere in the mansion began to shift, changing from constant tension to one of hope and renewal. In the days that followed, Raul decided to spend more time with his family. He reduced his working hours, delegating more responsibilities to his trusted executives. Samantha, in turn, continued to integrate into the family business, but now with a new purpose: to strengthen family bonds. Every morning, the family gathered for breakfast, a moment that was rarely shared before due to their busy schedules. The conversations were light and filled with laughter, with Raul and Margarita delighting in hearing Samantha's childhood stories from the orphanage and her dreams for the future. "I want to learn everything about the family business, Dad," Samantha said one morning, "but I also want us to have time to get to know each other better." Raul smiled, touched by his daughter's sincerity. "Of course, my dear. We'll balance everything. I want you to feel part of every aspect of our lives." Afternoons were often spent in the mansion's garden, where Samantha and Margarita tended to the flowers and planned new flower beds. The garden, which had always been beautiful, now bloomed like never before, reflecting the family's new energy. "This place is getting more beautiful every day," Margarita commented as she planted new flowers alongside Samantha. "And I feel it's a reflection of what we're building together." Samantha smiled, feeling truly at home. "I'm so happy to be here with you. I never thought I would find my family, and in addition to that, so much love." At night, the family gathered in the living room to watch movies, play board games, or simply talk. Raul and Margarita shared stories from their youth, and Samantha delighted in hearing every detail, feeling more connected to her parents each day. In one of these moments, Raul made a suggestion that brought tears to everyone's eyes. "Let's take a family trip, something we've always wanted to do but never had the chance." Margarita agreed immediately. "It would be wonderful. We can go to a special place where we can create new memories." Samantha was excited about the idea. "I would love that. We can explore new places and enjoy every moment together." With the trip planned, the family began to arrange every detail. The anticipation of new adventures together brought additional joy to the Giménez mansion. Planning the trip was as exciting as the prospect of traveling itself, and each family member contributed ideas and wishes. The Giménez mansion, once marked by secrets and tensions, now resonated with laughter and love. The hallways that witnessed years of loneliness and sadness now vibrated with life and happiness. The painful past was replaced by a present full of promises and a future filled with hope. "We're building something wonderful here," Raul said, holding Margarita and Samantha's hands as they looked at the moonlit garden. "A home full of love and joy." Samantha looked at her parents with gratitude. "And I'm so grateful to be here with you. Let's make every day count." With this promise, the Giménez family prepared for a bright future, united by love and determined to enjoy every moment together.